Hey, what's up everyone? Marty Carson here, and today we're going to be talking about how to throw the football further. Something that we talk about a lot with quarterbacks is how to improve their ability to throw the football farther. And today we're going to be talking about two of the most common mistakes that we see when quarterbacks go from throwing the ball more underneath, about 15 to maybe 25 yards, depending on the age, to then throwing the ball over 40 yards, right? And really it comes down to two things that will really have a big impact on your ability to actually do this effectively. The first thing is going to be when taking the steps, being able to maintain the weight back. So typically what happens is now we're going to start throwing the ball farther, and this is actually a normal thing to do, and really the correct thing to do, which is to take a bigger step, a longer step, have a little bit of a longer base, because the more we can shift the weight in our lower body and our hips, then the better we are going to be able to throw the football. And so we want to be able to understand that when throwing the ball far, we do want to get a little bit of a longer step. The thing is, we don't want to immediately shift all of our weight onto our front leg. So the biggest most common mistake is, and what kind of goes into this as well, is opening up that front arm, shifting all of our weight into that front leg too early. All those things are really common problems when it comes to being able to add distance onto the throw. So don't shift all of your weight onto your front leg when throwing the ball far. Second thing, the release of the football ends up being a lot different in where the ball ends up coming out of your hand. So what you want to end up doing when you're throwing the ball further is you want to be able to release the ball a little bit further back and with the nose of the football facing a little bit more upright. So what ends up happening is you actually end up releasing the ball a little bit earlier in the position of the arm in comparison to when you're throwing the ball a little bit more underneath. It's going to be more, in kind of that area, where now we're going to be throwing the ball, we're going to be releasing it in that area a little bit further back behind us. And so what happens is you'll end up going and shifting your weight too far forward too early, and then you have to release the ball really what ends up being a little bit earlier. So now what ends up happening is you don't have any power behind it because all of your weight shifted here, and then the timing of when the ball ends up coming out of your hands ends up being off. And that's what causes people to start to lean off to the side, or the inability to get the hips all the way through. So what you're going to recognize is, again, you want to be able to keep that weight back as you're loading, and really make sure you have the weight properly distributed in that back foot. But also we want to be able to change up the load and the position of the shoulders to make it so then we could better align ourselves to get rid of the football in this position. So it's not going to be as much of like a quick load like when you're throwing the ball, again, 15 25 yards. You're going to end up having to get a little bit longer load, maybe bring the ball back down a little bit more. Definitely have to raise up that front shoulder to make it so then as the ball is coming out of your hand, you're able to release it at an angle that's going to give it the right type of trajectory to make it so then the ball can drop or go up and then have that good ball drop. So a lot of times people that are struggling with the position of the ball, one, they don't get the wrist around correctly, right? Because now you're getting the ball out of your hand earlier. So if you're not getting the wrist around right, then you won't get that proper drop of the football. But another thing is when the ball is actually coming out, they're not getting the position correct. So the nose of the football is a little bit too flat, or the wrist is a little bit more underneath, which will cause that ball to either sail, right? If my wrist is underneath, the ball is going to end up sailing. If the ball is too flat, now I'm going to have much more of like a line drive. I'm not going to actually be able to get good height on the deeper throw. So those are really the two main things. Obviously there's a lot of different ways that will end up breaking down to get more specific into particular issues, but I just wanted to give a little bit more information. I realize I don't have a video specifically talking about how to throw the football farther and getting in depth into the differences between when throwing the ball farther in comparison to when throwing it underneath, and what are some of the common mistakes that we see there. I think this will really be beneficial for quarterbacks to be able to implement, to be able to improve their mechanics. And as always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up, subscribe.